I hope what I can do today is to provide for you, for those of you who have read the book, some heart to the material. Heart is often hard to capture on print. And for those of you that have not as yet read the book, I hope that I can successfully introduce to you the most important piece of information I think that any parent needs to know about in today's world. Not only parents, but grandparents, teachers, anyone who works with children. If you were to have told me at the beginning of my career as a developmental psychologist that I would actually be writing a book entitled Hold On to Your Kids, I would have never have imagined it. Most of my talks when I started as a developmental psychologist were around the theme of how to let go and of letting go. And that was my understanding of one of the primary responsibilities of parenting, is to let go. Obviously, I've changed my tune. Not that letting go isn't important, and we'll talk about it later on, but a far more important message is that of holding on. What changed my mind actually began over 20 years ago. Part of what alerted me to the loss of a context in which to raise children was some writing by my very own daughter, Tamara. Over 20 years ago now. She was 13 at the time. She's just about to turn 35 now. And I'll read what she wrote. I need these too. Like a shadow, I blend into the background. I try to follow in your footprints, too scared, too timid to venture forth and create my own path. I lose myself in your emotions, thoughts, and ideas. I become baffled with who I am, with what I think, and what I want. Simply called Footprints. When I read, it was on the table, and I thought I was okay to read it. Most of her poetry she left around to read. I assumed that it was okay. I not only assumed that it was okay, I assumed that this writing had to do with me, in a typical egocentric fashion. That this had to do with me. And as I read it, my heart was filled, well, actually with quite mixed feelings. Part of me felt quite complimented, following in my footsteps. And I thought of the warm memories of how close we had been, how close the bond had been as a young child. I also felt somewhat chagrined. I can be quite overbearing at times. And I thought maybe it was speaking to that, the poem. And I also, in my heart, of course, cheered her along, that she needed to indeed find her own path to become her own person. And then Tamara walked in the room. I gave her a hug, felt all warm, cuddly, gave some gestures to her that I understood. I sympathized. I understood where she was coming from and how hard it must be, this age-old kind of struggle. To become your own person in the context of the forces of fusion. And she gave me that look that only a 13-year-old daughter, I think, can give you, one that makes you want to disappear as fast as you can. Dad, she said, do you think this is about you? And it obviously wasn't. It was about a girlfriend named Shannon. And besides the ouch, of course, the ouch that I experienced, it also set me on my heels as a developmentalist. The good news is that she was heading in the right developmental direction. The disturbing news is that she had veered off the developmental map, that peers had already replaced parents in her life. Now, as a developmental psychologist, I knew that we needed to let go as parents. But always the ideal was that we would let them go to become their own persons, not to be with each other. And that is what is confused so much in our society today. The ultimate agenda of development has always been for a child to become his own person. And the best hope for that is to have a strong, secure connection with a parent. What was disturbing here is that connection, that strong connection, again, as I had said, had gone to peers rather than parents. Now, I'd already been familiar with this problem. I had worked for years with delinquent youth, and that was common there. They were very strongly peer-oriented. There was also some research out of Chicago that had been as early as the 1960s, and very disturbing research about the Chicago youth who were following their peers, much more than parents. But Tamara wasn't delinquent, and we had never been to Chicago, so I thought we were safe. Before I even realized this problem of peer orientation, and that indeed Tamara had become peer-oriented, what was becoming apparent was that Tamara was getting much more difficult to parent. And I didn't know the reason. I thought she was my first child. I thought this must be because she's becoming a teenager, that she was becoming more difficult to parent. Little did I know at that time that difficulty in parenting is a sign that something is amiss. Parenting shouldn't be that difficult. We've been doing it for thousands of years. It should be somewhat natural, intuitive, and instinctive. Yet, in today's society, there are signs that parenting is actually becoming more difficult. This despite the fact that we have never had more books on parenting, and now we've got one more. A special one, though, right? That we've never had more experts in parenting telling us what to do, that we've never had more information about child development, and that probably we've never had less children to parent. And despite all of this, we seem to be having more difficulty with our children than our parents had with us or their parents had with them. So something is amiss, and of course that's what I want to talk about this evening, what it is that has come amiss. And I want to start with the question, what makes parenting so difficult? But I want to approach it a little bit different way. Change the question slightly to what makes a child easy to parent. Sometimes it's the way we ask a question that leads us to the insights and the answers. And I think just changing the question ever so slightly can segue us into that material fairly easy. So the question we're going to ask is, what makes a child easy to parent? Now, we could discuss this for a bit, you and I, and we could come up very quickly with some things I think that we would all agree with between ourselves. For the sake of time, I'll just be rather unilateral about this since I prepared the slides already, and just get on with it. What makes a child easy to parent? Well, obviously, a child who listens and attends to us. Makes it so much easier to parent the child. A child who takes our cues for what to do, how to act, how to be, what to wear, how to talk. That is very, very important. A child who trusts in us, not only trusts us, but entrusts themselves or himself or herself to us. A child who looks up to us, obviously that plays a very strong part in making a child easy to parent. We'll go on, who seeks our help, our assistance in things, who likes our company. It's not very easy to parent a child who resists being with us, who feels at home with us, very important. A child who finds we are a place of retreat, a comfort, who is at home with us. A child who follows us, who follows our lead. We need to lead into values, need to lead into our culture, into our society. We need to lead into so many things as parents. A child who follows our lead, who likes us, who likes to please us, who seeks to measure up to our expectations. And the real ringer here, of course, is is a child who doesn't want to have secrets from us, at least ones that would push them away from us. This certainly takes care of sneakiness in a child. It makes a child much easier to be able to deal with. Now, if you have not yet seen your children represented in that list, you indeed are going to have difficulty in parenting. Now, all of this, these characteristics are relative, of course. They're not absolute. The more a child is represented in this list, the more these characteristics are true, the easier that child would be to parent. Now, where do these things come from? Can a child be born like this? No, this is not a result of genetics. If it was, it would be consistent. A child can be like this to one parent and not another, at one time and not another, to one grandparent and not another. So this is not a result of genetics. Well, okay, there's nature and there's nurture, so that means that this would have to be learned. Can you teach a child to be like this? In actual fact, you cannot. These characteristics are not a result of learning. You cannot teach children to be like this, but if these characteristics are there, you can teach a child many things. That child is highly teachable. If a child is like this, shows these characteristics to a teacher, that child will be highly teachable, highly open to be influenced. Well, what have we got left?